Ashton and Puffy, or Diddy, have been friends for decades. And they've done movies together, they've hung out together, and he can't say anything because he's one of those guys. Remember, I did that story last week, like, where are all Diddy's friends? Because the silence is deafening. A lot of them don't want people looking into their closet, but Ashton doesn't want the blowback that he got with Danny Masterson.
All right, so pretty tepid in how they reply. Meantime, we're hearing Diddy's ex, Cassie, is cooperating with the feds during this investigation.
100%.
What more is she saying, Paula?
She's not saying anything. So here's the deal. She had sued him for sex trafficking, rape, a bunch of horrible laundry list of stuff. And he settled. It's the one case he settled. It was the first case he settled it. I'm hearing for around $30 million. However, just because you settle a case, you may have an NDA, but if the feds come a knocking, you better answer.
The most damning twist? Chrissy Bixler, one of Danny Masterson's rape victims, claims Ashton called Masterson that same night. She alleges he made a confession, and she heard it all on speakerphone. Her message to Ashton was chilling. You're just as sick as your mentor. And that mentor? Danny Masterson, Kutcher's longtime friend and that 70s show co-star, recently sentenced to 30 years to life for rape. Ashton and Mila Kunis, his wife, wrote character letters to the judge.
More backlash today for Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis after their video explaining why they wrote letters of support for convicted rapist Danny Masterson. The actors were criticized for calling their former co-star a role model, among other things. And the consensus is that video didn't help.
We are aware of the pain.
Fierce backlash today for Ashton Kutcher and wife Mila Kunis as they apologize for the character letter,
bizarrely describing Masterson as a role model and older brother.
Calling that 70s show star Danny Masterson an outstanding role model and exceptional older brother figure with a caring nature.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system or the validity of the jury's ruling.
They were intended for the judge to read, and we're sorry.
One of the women Masterson was sentenced last week of raping, known only as Jane Doe number 1, is slamming their apology. This video was incredibly insulting and hurtful. Chrissy Bixler, another Masterson accuser, blasted Kutcher. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor.
The backlash came fast. Critics, fans, and survivors accused them of trying to gaslight the public and protect someone the legal system had already deemed a predator. When their apology video dropped, it only made things worse. The tone-deaf delivery, the awkward phrasing, and the obvious PR spin infuriated victims and viewers alike. One woman, a victim in the Masterson case, called it insulting and hurtful. What is Ashton Kutcher hiding, and why is he allegedly terrified of testifying in court? It's a question that's been swirling as more disturbing details emerge in the case against Sean Diddy Combs. But here's the twist. This story isn't just about Diddy. It's about the uncomfortable truth that some of Hollywood's most beloved stars may be tangled in a web of corruption, cover-ups, and catastrophic secrets finally coming to light. And Ashton might be more involved than he ever expected. For years, Ashton Kutcher and Diddy have shared more than just fame. They've shared red carpets, private parties, and according to multiple witnesses, some much darker moments that now have federal authorities asking hard questions. Ashton's silence, once brushed off as professionalism, is starting to look a lot like fear. And in Hollywood, silence usually means there's more to the story. Their friendship dates back decades. They've done business together, attended lavish events, and even hosted parties within the same elite circles. But those parties are now under federal scrutiny. Diddy's infamous freak-offs, reportedly laced with drugs, underage attendees, and secret recordings used for leverage, are no longer just whispers in dark corners. They're being treated as critical evidence in an explosive investigation. And the guest lists from those nights? That's where Ashton Kutcher enters the picture in a very troubling way. Kutcher, once idolized as the quirky heartthrob of TV and film, is now being pulled into the shadows of Hollywood's darkest underbelly. Allegedly, he was filmed at some of Diddy's events, surrounded by half-naked women and substances that raise legal questions. Worse still, insiders now claim those tapes weren't just party footage, they were insurance, blackmail tools, and the authorities may already have them. But Ashton's problems didn't begin with Diddy. They go all the way back to a chilling night in 2001, when he was supposed to go on a date with 22-year-old Ashley Ellerin. She never showed up. Hours later, she was found brutally murdered, stabbed 47 times. Ashton testified that he showed up, looked through her window, saw what he thought was a wine stain, and left. He was ruled out as a suspect, but not everyone was convinced then, and even fewer are convinced now. With every statement, Ashton's carefully crafted image continued to crack. The cracks deepened when people looked into Kutcher's child advocacy organization, one created to fight trafficking and exploitation. Astonishingly, it was revealed that Diddy had once been welcomed into this group's inner circle. That's right. The man now facing multiple federal charges for sex trafficking had been part of Ashton's so-called humanitarian efforts. It raised a disturbing question. Was Ashton completely oblivious or dangerously complicit? Meanwhile, Demi Moore, Ashton's ex-wife, brings her own unsettling history. Recently resurfaced footage shows her kissing a 14-year-old actor, Philip Tanzini, during his birthday party in the early 80s. She was in her 20s. The clip is uncomfortable, the implications worse. Combined with Moore's own admission that her mother allegedly sold her to a man for $500 to be sexually assaulted, the portrait becomes more complex and horrifying. Cycles of abuse, blurred lines, and deeply disturbing associations all swirl around the couple's past. So when reports started surfacing that subpoenas for both Ashton and Demi were being prepared as part of the Diddy investigation, few were shocked. Legal experts now believe Ashton's ongoing silence may not be a strategy, but a requirement. He could be under instruction by the federal government to stay quiet while they build their case. And that case is unfolding at lightning speed. Prosecutors say Diddy tried to contact witnesses from behind bars, going so far as to use other inmates' phone accounts for illegal three-way calls. He allegedly attempted to manipulate public opinion through orchestrated Instagram posts and family-run campaigns to sway jurors. There's even talk of intimidation, of trying to silence people, or worse, push them to lie. And the deeper the hole gets for Diddy, the more names are being dragged into the abyss. Ashton Kutcher is no longer shielded by his good guy reputation. Every moment of his past, his friendships, his behavior at parties, his decisions, is now under a magnifying glass. If those tapes truly exist, and if Ashton is on them, the damage could be irreversible. Fox News reports that credible intel suggests Ashton has already agreed to testify in the Diddy trial, but alternative reports claim he's planning to flee, to disappear in Europe before the spotlight burns too hot. In one of the leaked prison calls, Diddy references someone, likely Ashton, as a facilitator trying to escape to England. If true, this means Ashton might already be trying to vanish. Diddy's own legal team isn't helping his case. His top attorney, Anthony Rico, just filed to withdraw, citing that he can no longer serve as Diddy's representative. It's a rare and alarming move, especially considering the gravity of the charges. Meanwhile, prosecutors continue to strengthen their case, adding more victims, new charges, and extending the time frame of Diddy's alleged crimes. At the center of it all sits one critical question. What is Ashton Kutcher hiding? If he's truly innocent, why this silence? Why the ties to predators like Masterson? Why the collaboration with a man like Diddy? Why the hesitation to speak, unless speaking might incriminate him? Some believe Ashton is preparing for the worst, testimony under oath. If forced to appear in court, he may be required to relive dark moments, admit to what he saw, and face consequences for anything he concealed. But if those tapes are real, the trial may not need his testimony at all. The video could expose him without a single word from his mouth. Whether Ashton Kutcher is guilty of criminal acts or simply entangled in a corrupt system, one thing is certain. This scandal is no longer just about Sean Combs. It's about an entire culture of silence, privilege, and moral rot infecting the top tiers of the entertainment industry. And that culture is crumbling. Because when Hollywood's darkest secrets finally start to surface, fame doesn't shield you. It shines a spotlight on everything you've tried to keep hidden. So what do you think? Is Ashton hiding something deeper than anyone imagined? Will the truth force him onto the witness stand? Or will his silence become the loudest testimony of all?